Lithium's a different story. Lithium is in a super cycle. So I've sort of said that most of these others aren't in a super cycle, and a lot of the argument we spoke about for copper and for iron ore and for most of the other metals as to why they weren't in a super cycle was because the volumes weren't changing. They were, yes, prices were at super cycle levels, but we weren't seeing this massive increases in demand that we did, over the last, or sorry, from say 2000 up to 2015. Where China's just increased dramatically the amount of materials that it needed. Lithium does have that case. So the amount of lithium needed is significant, and so we're going to see this cycle sort of keep on growing. The lithium price has sort of gone from $5,000 a few years ago to $50,000, and the question is where to from here. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is we know where enough lithium is. So I've got a chart up, or a table up here, of the top dozen lithium mines that we know about, and in terms of what their reserves and resources are, is in that sort of that right hand column. So Greenbushes, which is is actually the largest operating one, is 12th on that list. That's an Australian mine. It's 12th on that list in terms of the size of the actual resources that are in the ground that we know about. And as you can see, there's 11 mines higher than it, of which only one of them is actually operating. There is plenty of lithium out there. We know where it is. I've highlighted a few of the ones where construction has actually already started, and then these other ones are all active and scoping and trying to work out how fast can they get the lithium out and what's going to cost. So there's not a shortage is the message. And actually I've seen some calculations done on the back that if you really needed to, and the lithium price was at current levels, maybe it might need to be a little bit higher, but you can actually get it from seawater at relatively economic rates in terms of the amount of lithium you could pull out, so not a problem to get it. It's just a question of how. Now the issue is I've got this production chart, cost curve again, showing you the different costs that go into a lithium mine, and it's what it shows for anyone who's just sort of listening in and can't see. There's all these mines on the left, which are the cheapest mines, which sort of can all produce between sort of $2,000 and $4,000 per ton. Keeping in mind the current prices at sort of at 50-ish, and you can see from those ones, there's a little bit of mining costs, a little bit of milling costs, not a lot of processing, and then you get the shipment and some royalties that sort of they sort of maybe make up a sort of roughly even amount for the cheaper ones, and maybe mining's a bit higher on some of the more expensive ones. Then you've got all these other ones on the right where they've got no mining costs and they don't have any milling costs, but it's all in the processing of it and the royalties. And the reason why is because it's a mixture between the hard rock ones and the guys that are pulling it out of salt flats, and sort of often just sort of pouring water down and dissolving it and then pulling it back up again. And so they're two quite different types. The more of the hard rock ones are very low cost. If more of those come on board, then the lithium price is headed down. And but the salt ones is actually where most of the reserves and resources are. And so there's this tension between the two as to who's coming on. And some of those really big ones I had on that prior chart are they're the salt flats in primarily in South America. So if you've got mines that are coming on, hard rock mines that are coming on in North America or Australia, for example, they're probably going to be profitable throughout the cycle. It's going to be hard for prices to come down far enough because it's the salt mine ones that are going to suffer first. So yes, that's sort of the rough structure of the industry. The real issue comes from the next chart, and actually I must have lost the source of this one. I copied it from a broker report, and I forgot to grab the source, and I can't remember which one it was. But somebody who had a supply forecast for lithium and showing the demand and supply imbalance. And this is where the real key is that these lines, the bars on here are growing so quickly. So you're going from you're doubling and tripling and quadrupling over the next 10 years, that it's very difficult to have any faith in the forecast for the demand or the supply. And so what's most likely to happen in the lithium market is what we saw over the last 10 years is you get these big increases in demand, and then and the price goes sky high, and then somebody comes on with a new mine that takes up like 10% or 5 or 10% of global demand, comes out in one hit. And so this new mine gets on, and all of a sudden prices get smashed down to lower levels again. And then you get a couple of years of no new mines coming on, and then prices go up again, and you get these massive levels, and then you get a flurry of everyone trying to set up all these mines, and then again you go through that same cycle again. So lithium,
classic constrained supply volatility curve, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and keep in mind as well, there are battery technologies that people are looking at that don't contain as much lithium. So there is a potential that maybe some of this demand just won't be needed because there'll be alternative versions. But that aside, I guess the thing for lithium is, if you're going to play this cycle and take it as a super cycle, it doesn't mean that from $50,000 the price is going to $100,000. There's plenty of demand, plenty of supply that will come on at below $10,000. We'll get basically as much as what you need at that level. It's just a question of time and the amount of people putting capital to it. So, at $50,000, I'd be keener to, be taking your foot off the accelerator and putting it on the brake. And when the prices get back down to sort of, especially under $10,000, that's the time to get a little bit more excited about the lithium plays out there and looking for it. So, question about how much you're paying for these stocks, but as a longer term view, absolutely lithium's in a super cycle. The question is just how you play that super cycle, and it's not all one-way traffic.